Hey everyone, how is it going? Welcome to day 16, and today we will be learning about NPM and a little bit about SASS as well. Um, so, hope you guys are doing great. Let's just wait a couple of minutes and then we'll get started. Okay, so did you guys enjoy the break that we had? Uh, did you guys practice the things that we have been building so far? And how is the how's your progress been going? So far we have covered so many different topics. We have moved from basics to lots of advanced concepts. So how has the progress been? How are you finding these sessions? You can let me know in the comments. And also let me know how are the hackathons going. Okay. So we'll begin with Nicholas saying that CSS is pain. Yeah, it's a bit difficult to get started with. It takes a bit of time to understand it, but once you get going, it becomes it just becomes easy for you to write CSS. There's another comment which says that you're struggling with boot camp and college. Yeah, you have to just compartmentalize both the things. Figure out where you need to put your attention at. Sometimes you need to do some things in college, but the boot camp will help you, get industry level training, and you will acquire skills which will help you position yourself better in the job market. And so there's a question: are we learning React? Yeah, we'll be learning React just in a few more sessions. For mostly starting next week we'll begin with React. That's why I wanted to give you guys a bit of background into NPM so that when we transition into React it's easier for you guys to follow along. um, there's a big project that we'll be building before moving on to React, just using vanilla JS, HTML, and we'll be using a library as well. um, so yeah, that's the idea. And there's a question: is it necessary to learn jQuery and Ajax for front end? Most of the things that you were doing using jQuery is now possible using the using vanilla JavaScript. So earlier we didn't have all of those query selectors and query selector all methods, so it wasn't so easy to traverse all the DOM nodes using vanilla JavaScript. These days, thanks to the modern JavaScript APIs, all of the functionality is right there, so you don't really need to learn jQuery as much. But I mean, you learn these things, you'll figure out what jQuery is. So but most of the projects these days are based on React, sometimes even Angular. But jQuery is not there that much. Maybe if you're working on some old project, you might need that knowledge. So there's a question: what is vanilla JS? So vanilla JS, it means that just plain HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. So for example, whenever we're writing, anything inside our main.javascript file, right? Whatever we are developing, whatever we have developed so far, all the different apps, that is known as vanilla JS. I mean, there are so many flavors of so many libraries and frameworks available in JavaScript. So it's just a term, vanilla JS, that when you're just talking about plain JavaScript, HTML, and plain JavaScript, it's known as vanilla JS. That's the thing. Uh, then there is yeah, we'll be learning Tailwind, in this boot camp. So yeah, you can replace custom CSS with Tailwind. Yeah, so we'll be learning Tailwind pretty soon. So you can pick that up at that point of time. So let's begin with today's session on NPM. So just to give you guys a bit of a background, so NPM stands for Node Package Manager, right? So what is that? So these days we have in the last few sessions we have learned about the event loop, JavaScript engine, and all of those things. So as I told you in the previous session, there's a separate component available in the browser which is responsible for executing the JavaScript, that is known as the JavaScript engine. So there are different engines available. The engine used by Chrome is known as V8. Okay, that is the name of the engine used by Chrome. Okay, and so what Node is, it's basically it's a platform which basically use this V8 engine from Chrome, and it allows us to execute JavaScript at the you know not inside our browser but within the within the environment which is provided by Node. So basically, let's take a look at how we can get started with using NPM. So NPM is short for this thing basically, and NPM is the package manager which comes when you install Node.js on your machine. Okay, so let's take a look at how we can install Node.js. So for that, you need to visit, hang on a sec, where did my browser go? Okay, yeah. So you can visit nodejs.org. You can download a version of Node. Based on your operating system, you will get a version which you can install. When you install this, you get access to Node.js as well as NPM. Okay, this comes when you install this software. All right, and to check if this has been installed successfully, what you can do is just we can open the terminal, and you can check over here. Let me zoom this for you guys. Okay, I'm using another software to manage different versions of Node, so you don't need to do the part which I'm doing right now. So I just need to set the version of Node which I'm using. This part is not required for you guys, so don't focus on this. Okay, all right, so just forget about this part which I have typed so far. So once you install the once you install Node.js, just check this command node-v. If you're getting a value for this, so this is basically telling you that Node.js has been installed and this is the version of Node.js which you're using. And similarly, just check the same thing for NPM. Just do npm-v. So it will tell you, it should give you the version of NPM which is installed in your machine along with Node.js. Okay, so if the installation is successful, you should be able to successfully get an output for both of these commands. Okay, all right. So why do we use Node.js? So the reason is that when we have large projects, right? When you're working on industry level projects, your focus is on, building functionality, which is related to your, project, rather than, reinventing the wheel. Suppose you want to build a smartphone. So you will not, create a screen. You want to, put it out there in the market, right? You will not, buy a, you know you will not buy a different component for a screen. I mean, you will not try to build everything on your own. You will, buy maybe an OLED screen of certain specification which is already there. You will buy, uh, you know either Intel chips or Qualcomm chips, Snapdragon, which is by Qualcomm. So you'll use all of those existing things which are already there, and you'll just work on the software part. Okay, even that you'll, maybe if it's Android based, you'll build it on top of, Android, right? So similarly, what NPM allows us to do is it allows us to make use of existing code which is written by other developers. Okay, so there are lots of libraries. Libraries are basically, uh, code, JavaScript code basically, that uh, provides you certain functionality which is external to your program, and you can just use that file, uh, and just get that functionality. So we'll be looking at an example of one such library. We'll be looking at SASS today along with NPM, which allows us to extend the functionality of CSS. So basically, NPM is a, huge repository of uh, libraries which are mostly open source in nature, which are free to use, and you can use all of that functionality which is already there, and then focus on just the things that you need to build for your, product or project or whatever thing that you need to build, right? So that is the advantage of using NPM. All right. So if we visit this website, npmjs.com, for example, so like I said, it has a large number of repositories. So for example, let's search for SASS. Okay. So you are getting some information about this package from here, right? So for example, how do you use this package? How many weekly downloads are there for this package? It's telling us some information about the licensing. So MIT license is generally free to use. You can read about the details. You'll get information as to how to install this package using NPM. We'll look at all of these commands in just a bit. You can view the information of, where the repository for this package is on GitHub, for example. So it's giving us all of this information about the package, what the package is about, how to use it, what it does, some basic level documentation, and there's some main documentation as well. So this is where it's useful. Okay, let me just check. You guys are reporting that the voice is breaking. Give me a second. Okay, is it better now? Or is it still breaking? Okay, thanks for letting me know. All right. Um, so I'll just repeat the part in case it was not clear. So we went to the npm.js website, and npm is nothing but a repository of all the packages which are available. These packages are open source and free to use. We can use these packages to just get some built-in functionality which might be required by our project that we are working on, and it will save our time because the functionality that we need is already there, and we can just focus on the things that we focus on developing the logic that is actually needed by our project, right? So that is where this thing is helpful. So let's take a look at how to get started with it. So I told you about the installation. Now there are two ways by which you can do an installation of a package. So let's take a look. I'm opening the terminal in VS Code over here. Okay. And what we can do over here is, suppose I want to install SASS, right? So I will say npm install like this, or I can use a short form I, and then the name of the package. So generally this information is available on the repository for the package, right? So either you can just copy it like this and paste it in your terminal. Okay. So this is known as a local installation. When I do this, right, it's doing a local installation. That means it's just installing that package within this folder. Okay. So once this command has been run, you'll see a folder known as node modules will be created automatically, and you'll also see these two files, package.json and package-log.json. We'll look at these two files as well. And if you examine the contents of node modules, you should find the package name of the package, the folder of the package which you have installed. So we installed SASS, right? So these are the files which are associated with this package. Okay. And then what we can do is we can use this package within our code base. So we'll look at all of those things as well. So you can see that over here it generated this package.json file, and it has this section known as dependencies, and it's telling us that this is the name of the package and this is the version of the package that we have installed. Okay. Suppose we do not have, I directly ran this command to install the package, but there's a step that you can do to before we actually install a package. We can do an additional step. So let me just remove these things for the time being, and let me show you that step. For example, so there is this command known as npm init. So it initializes npm within your folder. Okay. And then it will ask some default questions. So right now it's asking me what should be the name of the package. So I can say intro to npm, for example. uh Hang on. So intro to npm, it can only contain URL friendly names, so it cannot have spaces, right? So I need to say something like intro to npm like this. Okay. Okay, and then we specify some version. So we are generating a package.json file ourselves right now. So to do that, this is the command that we are using, and then it basically prompts us some questions as to some information about the project in which we're using these packages, right? So we give some information about the project. So I'll just say, yeah, version is 1.0.0. I can just press enter. Learn about no npm, that's the description of this project. Entry point is main.js. So Yeah, we can leave it to that. We can leave all of these things blank. There's no Git repository associated with this project right now. So all of these things you can leave blank. You can give your name over here or anything. License, you can use this one, or you can say MIT. So then it prompts you, this is the package.json which will be created based on the information which you have provided, and you can just say yes if this you're fine with all of this information. Okay, then it has generated this file. As you can see over here, there's a name, there's a version, description, and all of these things. Okay, and then the earlier file that we had created, it did not have all of this information, right? So s- suppose we publish this information to a repository, and someone else who reads this file, right? They will understand looking at this that okay, this is what this project is about, this is the description, this is the type of license. So the license field is also quite important because it allows whether we can reuse that functionality, modify it. So all of that information is generally specified within the license. Okay, so it's important to always check out the license whenever you're using an uh, whenever you're pushing something onto GitHub, as well as whenever you're using a package. Okay, all right. So let's run the same command again. So like I told you, when we do npm I SASS, this is a local installation, and it did all of the installation within our folder, which is day 16 right now. There's another way, which is known as the global installation. So when you want to do something like that, you say npm -g for global and the name of the package. So it will install that package, at the level of your machine. So when we are looking at how to use the package, if that package is available within your machine, there's a certain way of using it. If it's available globally, there is a certain way of using it. So whenever you're using something which might be common across different projects, you can install that package globally, provided you're using the same version of the package in all the products, in all the projects as well. So that is when you use something globally. You know that you'll need it in different projects, different folders, right? So that is the time when you install something globally. So this is the command to install something globally. um, all right. So far, do you have any doubts as to the things that we have covered? So we looked at what is node, what is npm, uh, how to install node.js onto your machine, how to initialize a package.json file, and how to install a package locally. All right. And another thing that you can do over here is when you're starting out, instead of saying just npm init, if you want to just use default values, you can say npm init -y, which just means you're saying yes to all the default values. Okay. And so we looked at how to install a package, and then we have this file known as package.json, and this is the section which is of importance. So this is telling us what are the dependencies that this project that we have created, this day 16 folder, what are the different node packages or npm packages uh, uh, that it needs. So all of those would be listed over here. So right now we have just installed one. Suppose I install something like uh, Lodash, right, which allows us to it provides a lot of different utility functions. So that entry is also available over here. So whenever you're installing a new package, its entry is available inside the dependencies, right? So these are all the dependencies that are needed in order for your project to run properly. And then this is the part which is giving us information about the version of the package that you're using. Now this has a specific format. So it's the first part, there are two decimal dots, right? So there are three parts. This is the first part, second part, and the third part. So let's take a look at this. So this is this the type of versioning that is known by no used by NPM is known as semantic versioning. Okay. Now what this means is that there are three parts. The first part represents the major version. Okay. Now what is this major version? So any new updates or new features, okay, which are big changes within this package, they are generally available in major versions. So the first digit represents the major version of that package. All right, so it includes big new features basically. And another thing is these features will generally not backward compatible. Okay, so this will generally this will break the existing functionality, because you might be using a feature which has been modified and in the latest major version. And if you're using it and the way of using that functionality or that feature has been changed, then the existing code will break. Okay, so this is something which generally happens in the major version. It has all of the new features which are not backward compatible. Since they're not backward compatible, the existing functionality might break. Similarly, the second part gives us information about you know the minor version. Okay, right? So this has some small updates to the package. Some small features. These are like big features. These are smaller updates to the package, and they are generally backward compatible. Okay, but there are times when they are not backward compatible. So ideally they're supposed to be backward compatible, but it's not necessary that it might be the case. So it might also break the existing functionality. So all of this information is available to us with the release notes of the function which is a version which is available. And then the last digit represents the patch basically. So these are small bug fixes, and these are backward compatible. Okay, and it will not break your existing code. So any small bug fixes which were released along with the version, and fixes to those are available in patches. So here the patch number is 0. Suppose it can be something like 1 or 12 or whatever, 21. So the last part represents the patch version. Okay, and this is the difference between what each of these versions represent basically. Now let's take a look at this information. Let's go to the repository, right, for SASS, considering this example. So you go to the releases, right? You can see that this is the latest release, and these are the release notes basically, and this is telling you what are the changes. Okay. So potentially breaking bug fix, it's telling us that they were using some 64-bit floating point numbers, and I mean some information is available. So these are the things which might break in the existing code. So generally this information is available in the release notes. We can look at the other releases as well. So you can see over here, this was a new uh, minor release, right? So generally, whenever a new package is released, right, when it's publicly available, the numbering starts from 1. So it's generally 1.0.0. And then if a new version is available, a new major version is available, it will be updated from 1 to 2. But if minor versions are available, only the minor part will change. So over here, right now we are at the 55th minor version, okay, within the first major version. This is what this thing is telling us. If we look at the previous one, it was the major version over here is 1, the minor version was 54, and the patch was 9. And you can see over here, these are all the patch updates, right? You can see that the previous one was 1.54.8, then 1.54.9. So these are all patch updates. So just by looking at this, you can see that these are all patch updates, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then finally we have a, minor update. You can see that we moved from 1.54.9 to 1.55.0. So whenever there's a change in the minor version, right, the numbering for the the numbering for the patch version will start from 0 once again, right? And similarly, if there's an update at the major version, so for example this becomes 2, right, so all of these will be reset to 0. Okay, so whenever that happens, you'll see a package like that. Let's take an example. Let's take a look at a different example, say Lodash. And this is the repository for Lodash. If we take a look at the releases, you can see that this is the latest release. So they released a new major version, right? 4.0.0. So this is a new major one. So probably before this, they might have had something like, where is it? Yeah, so the previous one was 3.0.0. So they directly moved from 3.0 to 0 to 4.0 to 0. So they made major updates to their package. So that is why there are no minor level changes or you know available in between. So these are the differences between all of the numbers that you're seeing over here, right? So this is what is meant by this, multiple decimal points, and you should not confuse this with the normal, numbering system. We use something known as semantic versioning. It's the same is the case with Lodash over here. So right now the latest one is 4.17.21. So this is the major version. This is the minor version, and then this is the patch which is going on currently. Now, what does it mean? By these this caret sign. What does this represent? Okay. So this tells us that uh, whenever we update this package, whenever we run this command, okay, npm update and the name of the package. For example, I want to update Lodash, right? So I will run this command, and what this indicates is, suppose I have a uh, I just installed this version by default. Okay, so let's take a look at how we can do that. So I will just say npm I low dash, okay, at the rate 4.0.0. So right now I'm specifying the exact version of Lodash that I want to install. If I run this command, it will install Lodash for me and it will update that over here. So you can see that it's giving us this, till sign and 4.0.0. So this was the major version. Now what this till sign indicates is that if I try to update this package, it will just install all the updates which are available at this version. Only the minor version associated with this major version and the patches will be updated when the till sign is prefixed along with the you know version number. So it will only update the minor update to the minor versions and the patch fixes. Okay, so now if I try to update this package, right, npm update low dash, okay, you can see over here, let me do, for example, low dash at the rate latest, like this. um Hang on a sec. This should have done that. Let's take a look at npm. What is the latest version which is available? So it is telling us that 4.17 is the latest. um npm update. Okay, so ideally this should have changed to 4.17.21 as it is telling us over here. Let me just cross check once again. Am I missing something? Let's take a look. I'm searching for the package.json file within the Lodash package which I have with me. So basically, whatever project that you install, it has its own package.json file, right? So for example, we look at this one. Okay, it has its own package.json for the SASS, and you might be wondering from where we have got all of these folders, right? So it's coming from the let me just format this. What happened? Okay, I'll just format this with the default formatter, and you can see that these are the dependencies for SASS. So it needs these files. Okay, and then you will find an entry for these, right? So you can see that within SASS it had a dependency on this, right? Chokidar, immutable, source map. So if we look at immutable, there's a folder for this, and it in turn has its own package.json. uh, let's see if it has any dependencies. So it does not have any further dependencies. And if we look at this one, it has its own package.json and it has many more dependencies, right? So whatever is needed for this package to run, that is available as dependencies. So you can see that we have any match installed because it was a dependency of this package, right? So it's giving us all of these additional packages because they're coming from dependencies of packages that we have installed, right? So that is why you might see a much larger node module size and a large number of files compared to the files that you have compared to the packages which you have installed, because it also goes through the dependencies which are there for the packages that you have installed, right? And it will install all of those as well. um, Let me just comment all of this out for now. Okay, so when we run the update command, that is what it is supposed to do. I'm not sure why it's not doing that right now. Ideally it should have updated this to 4.17.21, the latest version. It should have done that over here automatically. Let's do one thing. Let's just remove this. Okay, so I'll say npm r remove, and I want to remove load dash. Okay, so you can see that when I executed this command, it remove that. Now let me try do a fresh installation of load dash uh, at the rate 4 dot at the rate 4, for example. Oh, I need to say npm I for installation. Okay, so it installed the latest version at this level. Suppose I do something like at the rate 3. Okay, so whatever was the latest version associated with version 3, right? So it installed all of those. Now if I do this and run a npm update, okay, I think there's some issue with this right now, but generally what this is supposed to do is update to whatever is the latest minor version and the patch fix, so it would automatically update the numbers. Okay, if we have this till sign. Okay, and similar to this there is something known as we have something like this as well, which is the sorry, not the till sign, this was the caret sign, right? We have the till sign as well, which is this wiggly line. uh, this indicates that it will only, when we run the update command, it will only run the it will only do the updates for the patch versions. So let's take a look at all of the releases which are there for SASS, for example. So suppose we have this, right? And let me install this version over here. npm install SASS at the rate this version. Okay, and I change this to the till sign. Okay, we can see that there was a 1.54.9 as well. Let's run the npm update on SASS, and it's saying that it did update it. I'm not sure as to why it's not updating it, but ideally this should have been updated to 1.54.9 after I run this update command. So that is how it works, right? And suppose I leave this at the caret level, right? And if I run the npm update command, okay, it should update this to 55, like this. Whatever is the latest minor version, it should have updated it to that. That is what is the significance of these special symbols. And this is what it indicates. So I'll get back to you guys as to why this wasn't working. We'll take a look at this in one of the future sessions, but this is the general functionality associated with these symbols, right? And so these are all the dependencies, and similar to this we have something known as dev dependencies as well. So suppose I install a package. Let me remove lodash. So npm remove lodash, and I can also install this as just a dev dependency. So in that case I will say npm I lodash, and hyphen save dev, something like this. So whenever I do this, it installs lodash as a dev dependency. Now the difference between the two is that this is a dependency which is needed in order to develop the application. When you specify something as a dev dependency, it means that package is only needed at the time of it is only needed by the developer. It's only a development time dependency. Okay. We'll look at more examples. You'll understand this better as we build more projects, especially when we're working with React. You'll get a better understanding of the difference between the two. But there's something known as dev dependencies as well, which focuses on the aspect which uh, includes code which allows us to maybe do certain things faster as a developer, but it's not related to the functionality which might be used by all of our files, all of the code which is needed for that project. Okay. It's just to enhance the developer experience. So those things are generally available within the dev dependencies. Okay. And yeah, so this is about this aspect. Now you have also noticed there is a package lock JSON file, right? So the significance of this file is that it has all of the information about a node package, right? The exact version that we installed. So you can share this file with anyone, right? um, and so as we have these entries over here, right? So if you give this package.json file to anyone, suppose we're starting this project from scratch. I do not have any node modules. All I have is a package.json file, right? Because I want somebody else to work on this project as well, and work on probably a different functionality. Now that person will just have all of these files, and the node modules folder is not generally made available to them. So at their machine they will just say npm I. Okay. It will go through all the packages which are there in the package.json and install all of those, right? So let's say I have this as 4.0.0, but I have specified this as a caret sign, right? Now let's save this and let's do a npm installation. Okay. You can see that it created this log file, and I mean the log file was already there. It created this node modules folder. Okay, we did not have to individually go and install each of the packages, right? We did not have to do npm I lodash, npm I SASS. So all of those things we did not have to do. It just went through all the dependencies which were there in our package.json, and it installed all of those. And if we take out the package log.json and we search for say lodash, you can see that it has installed this version of lodash, right? If we do something like, let me check if it's not updating it there but updating it in the uh, package.log file. Let's see. No, it's not updating it here also. So anyways, I'll get back to you guys as to why the update functionality isn't working correctly. Okay, Okay. But yeah, so basically, the thing is, as I told you, this represents that, it will not do any major updates, major version updates to this package. It will only provide updates if they're available for the minor version as well as the patch version, right? So suppose, you share this package.json file with someone, and you do not share the package log.json file. So when they run this npm install command, okay, they will, based on this, if the latest version, major version was available, compared to, the time at which initially this file was created, and suppose after a month a new developer joined, and they use this package.json to do the installation, and in the meantime a new, minor version was available, say 1.56 dot, 0, for example. That developer will get this version, okay, when they run npm install command. And it might happen that the existing code which is being used, that might, break, because this newer minor version has some, change which breaks the existing code. So then the other developer is not able to, work with the code base. So in those scenarios, the package log json file is useful, okay, because it will install the exact version, with which this, project was created, okay. It will not install the updates and all of those things. So this is where this file is helpful. So the other person who's doing the installation will also have the exact same version of the packages with which this project was initially created, okay. So that is the idea of package log json file. All right. So are there any questions? So there's a question as to why we do not, provide these node modules, why these are not provided, because as you can see, the size of this is quite large. Even though we just install two packages, SASS and Lodash, you can see there are a large number of other packages. So consider a big project. There might be, multiple, maybe 10, 15 dependencies, and you can imagine how many packages it would install internally, as dependencies to the packages that we need. So it has a very large, file size. That is why we do not generally provide the node modules as well. And the idea of node modules or npm is that you can download the package from the repository, right? It is centrally available. uh, you don't have to, I mean, that's the whole point. It's easy to install a package, it's easy to remove a package. So that is the idea basically. And I showed you a couple of commands, right? So npm I is for installation, npm, remove, name of the package is for removing the package. Now suppose I want to, view all of the versions of a package. Say I want to view all the versions which are there for the SASS one, right? um, so I can say npm version, sorry, I can say npm view SASS and the versions, okay, versions. So it goes to npm and you can see all of the versions, of SASS which have been there so far. So initially it was 0.4.0, then till here it was in beta, and then you know this version 1 came out, and then 1.1. There have only been basically minor version updates from here, minor and patch fixes basically, and right now we are at 1.55.0. So these are like few of the commands that you can use uh, to, get information associated with a package. So there are many more. These are just a few. All right, so let's take a short break over here and then we'll just look at SASS briefly. So today's session is not going to be a very long one, it's a short session. Yeah, let's just take a quick 2-minute break and then we'll just move on to this part. So there's a question, didn't understand difference between dependency and dev dependency. I think it'll be more clear when we work with React and we come across such scenarios where uh, where we are using certain tools which allow us to uh, so actually I can give you an example right now. So we are using this tool Prettier, right? Which allows us to format um the you know whatever code we are typing, it's indenting it automatically. Whatever tags we are typing, it's spacing that out easily, right? So suppose I have this, I write this h1. You can see that if I write a paragraph, um, not like this, instead of an h1, suppose I have an article tag, right? And I do not have this spacing. Instead, I write a paragraph, and whenever I'm saving this, it's automatically formatting my code, right? It's indenting, adding all of these spaces, it's formatting all of this text. So this is helpful. This functionality is helpful only for the developer. In terms of functionality for this project, it's of no consequence, right? So suppose I want to install Prettier as a node package. Right now I have installed it as a extension to VS Code. It's also possible that I can install uh, Prettier as a node package. So let's do that. So npm I Prettier. Okay. Um, Hang on, let me check what's the name of the package. Prettier. Let's do a Google search. Prettier npm. Yeah, this one. Okay, suppose we install this. No matching version. Oh, okay. It's because I had manually updated this while explaining something to you guys. So actually, let me remove this. This should be available as a dev dependency. So when you want to install something as a dev dependency, you use this, and or you can use a -s like this, I think. Yeah, no, not this one. Uh, save dev like this. Yeah. So you can see that Prettier is now available as a dev dependency. So what this means is that even if this pack, whatever the use of this package is only to enhance the developer experience, or ease the development of this project. Okay. So Prettier is something which will allow us to, uh, format our code, either it's HTML files or JavaScript files. That is where Prettier is useful. It will not provide any meaningful functionality to the project, right? Suppose you're building a weather app or a currency converter. Prettier has no use, right? It's only to help me as a developer. It will help me improve the readability of the code, but in terms of actual actual functionality, it has no use, right? So those dependencies which are used only at the time of development, okay, uh, okay, just for the development of the project, whoever is the developer, they're helping that. So those kind of dependencies should be added under dev dependencies, and all the dependencies which you need inside your project, for example SASS or Lodash, all of those should be available as direct dependencies. These are dependencies without which the project will not work. Okay, so that is the difference between dependencies and dev dependencies. So I hope it's clear. So there's a question. Okay, so there was a question about command for removing. So the command for removing a package is npm remove and the name of the package. So Lodash, for example. So Lodash. Okay. So this will remove that package. Then there's a question how to install using packagelog.json. You don't need to do anything. You should just have these two files. When you run the npm I command or install command, it will go through your package.json and log file and install all of these dependencies, and you should see a node modules folder available with you. Okay. All right, so let's move on to the part which is about SASS. So what is SASS basically? The full form of SASS is that it's a syntactically awesome style sheet. It's basically a superset. Okay, what that means, a superset of CSS. So what it means is it covers whatever is CSS is also a valid SASS. Okay, the so whatever is included in CSS is available by default within SASS. So it's a superset, and SASS is basically a preprocessor which allows us to write CSS in a certain way, which is easier to which is more feature rich, and it's more readable, and it makes using CSS, writing CSS rules much easier compared to the default CSS. So let's take a look at a few of the ways where it helps us. So we have this index.html, and we have this, right? So to get started with SASS, we have already installed the package, right? And in order to use this, we'll create a file, styles.scss. This is the extension for a SASS file. Okay. Now, the one of the useful features of SASS is that it allows nesting. Okay, of rules. So let's take a look. I have this article tag, right? And within this, I have this para. Okay. Suppose I just want to target this particular para within this article tag. Okay. So the way I can do this is I can say article. Okay. And opening and closing curly brackets. And I just want to target the paragraph which is within this article, right? So I just specify the para tag like this, and suppose I want to give it a color of you know uh, royal blue, for example. And let's see, let's try and link this over here, styles.scss, and let's open this in the browser. So this is running on 5500, but you can see that we gave it a color of royal blue, but nothing happened. So the reason is that the browser by default does not understand SCSS. Okay, this format is not understood by the browser. It only understands CSS. So using uh, the command which is provided by SASS, so it provides us with a CLI, a command line interface, which allows us to convert this SCSS file into a CSS file. So let's take a look at how we can execute that command. So if you notice over here, inside the node modules, we have this bin folder, okay? And then there is this file available for SASS. So this is the command line utility which is provided by SASS. To use this within our project, we will say node, okay? Then we're giving path to this SASS folder, this SASS CLI. So this is within node modules and inside the .bin folder. Okay, so .bin, and within that we are interested in SASS. Okay, so using this, we want to specify the file that we want to convert. So this that is styles.scss, and we want to convert it to styles.css like this. Okay, so it ran this command, and if you see over here, now we have this automatically generated file styles.css. Okay, and it has converted this SCSS representation into a CSS representation of the same rule. All right, so you can see that instead of writing this rule article and then we are selecting the p tag within the article, this is much more easier to understand, right? We wanted to target this paragraph which was within this article, so we just placed it within the article rule, and then we define the properties which are specific to this paragraph. And now let's remove this. Since the CSS file has been generated, if we go back to our code, you can see that the styling which we had uh, provided over here, it is being applied to our index.html after converting it, from SCSS to CSS, right? So by default, the browser only understands the CSS file. It doesn't understand this. That's why we had to make use of this command, SASS, name of the file that you want to convert, and in the format that you want to convert to, right? Input file name and the output file name. So you can do this for a particular file, and you can also do this for a for several files by specifying a folder. Okay, so suppose this was, this was present inside the CSS folder or a styles folder, so you can specify the name of that file also. uh, Now let's try and do something else. So suppose within this we have a span, right? This is a span, and let's target that span. Okay, span, and we want the font size to be extra large, for example. And let's do a refresh. You can see that our change has not been reflected. The extra large styling has not been applied, so that's because we did not update the the CSS file. We did not rerun this command. So in order to create or update the CSS file, we need to rerun this command. And now you can see that it auto updated the CSS file. So article, then p tag, and then span, then it gave it a font size of extra large. So this is, once again, like I said, it's much more cleaner to write and easier to understand, right? So this is one advantage of using the SCSS way of writing CSS. um, and instead of doing this all the time, there is another functionality provided by uh, the SASS CLI. We can use the watch command. We can provide a watch flag over here. So we can say hyphen hyphen watch like this. So what this is doing now is it is watching for changes to this file, and whenever that happens it will automatically create a styles.css. So suppose I change the color to green, for example. Okay, now in uh, green. Okay, so now I don't need to manually run this command. Since this was being watched, it updated it and it auto generated this styles.css, and you can see that it's automatically changed the color from royal blue to green. Let me undo this. Suppose I just want to change the color for the span. I can do so over here, and you can see this is of one color, this is of another, and we no longer need to manually type that command. And another advantage of using node modules is that we have the package.json, right? And we have this section for scripts. So let's create a script for SASS watch. And here, instead of going inside, typing all of this node modules bin and all of this, we can just say node SASS, and we can give this command. Okay, and let's get out of this watch mode. And here, to execute a script using npm, you can just say npm run SASS watch. Okay, like this. And this will basically run what is it saying? Node SASS hyphen hyphen watch cannot find module, this one. All right, so we need to give the path like how we had given over there. Okay, so instead of everybody having to remember what to type, you can have this available right within these scripts, and you can just say npm run SASS watch like this. And now you can see that it's basically running the command that we had provided over here. And so it would be helpful to someone else. They don't need to type all of this, they can just run this part and it will in turn you know execute this thing. So this is how you can use the built-in sections for the scripts, which is available within package.json. And let's try and make a change to the style over here and see if it's working how it was working before. So let's change this to red, for example, and you can see that our functionality of the watch mode is still working as it was working before. Right, so we learned another functionality related to the package.json file, that you can specify scripts and you can use that to automate certain part. Okay, and let's look at another feature. So this one was nesting. Now before there were custom properties, SASS was the only way by which you could SASS and similar things. There's another format of writing CSS like this known as less. So those you know only through these preprocessors it was possible for us to use CSS variables. Okay, earlier in CSS we did not have custom properties or CSS variables. So this was the only way by which we could do that, and it was very useful, right? Because if you followed the previous few sessions, we built a dark theme. We added a dark theme to our portfolio, and we use CSS variables to achieve that. So in order to define a variable in SASS, you make use of the dollar sign. And suppose I want to say the color. I want to create a variable known as color. Okay, and I want to set the value to say royal blue, for example, uh, like this. And wherever I want to use this variable, I can just let me move this to the top. We don't need this part. I can basically replace that with this dollar color like this. And if we save this, the output is still the same. Suppose I want to use this over here as well. I want to reuse the value for color. You can see that it's doing that. And if we take a look at styles.css, you can see that wherever we're using dollar color, it has replaced that with royal blue in the actual CSS file. So like I said, SCSS is a superset, and whatever you're writing over here is nothing but CSS, and in the end it gets converted to CSS only. Okay, so this is another very useful feature why SCSS SAS is used, right? So we have variables. And another advantage of using SaaS is that you have access to something known as inheritance. So for example, I want to create some special kind of buttons. So I can create a basic structure. So the way I can do that is I can say percentage btn like this. Let's give our button a padding of 8 pixels. Let's give it a border radius of 16 pixels, and let's give a color of of say white smoke. Okay, and using this as the base, we can create different styled buttons, for example. So let's take a look at how we can do that. Suppose I want to create a default style button. I can say that at the rate uh, what's it called, extend. Okay, we want to extend percentage button. Okay, we want to extend whatever are the styles for this, and the default one will just have the background color to light gray, for example. Okay, and let's use this within our index.html. Let's add a button tag. Let's give it a class of default and say default button like this. So you can see that the default button is coming with this styling, right? So this was the SCSS file. Now let's take a look at the CSS file which it generated. So it created a default class. Okay, uh, with padding 8 pixels, border radius 16, and then color so and so, and then it added this background color of light gray. Let's use a few more examples to understand this better. Now suppose I have a primary button. All right, so all of the buttons have a basic look and feel, and based on the specific class only the background is changing. So say suppose I have a primary type of button. I will say once again I want to extend the button class which is there, and I want to set the background color to no royal blue in this case, or I can make use of the variable that I have, dollar color, like this. And let's create a new button over here. Give the class primary and then change the text to primary, like this. And you can see that this is a primary button, right? And you can see that there are default and primary. Both of them have some common properties, and then they have their individual properties. So whatever was created using SCSS, while converting it into CSS, this is what we are getting. So this is how we would have achieved this functionality without SCSS, right? And similar to this, let's create another one, say success, and let's set the color to dark green, for example. And let's add a button with that style. We'll say success over here. And you can see that we have this kind of button. So this is another useful feature known as inheritance, because of which we can inherit certain properties and extend it and add the things which can provide a different functionality, right? So these are all the things which are of importance, which I wanted to teach you guys a bit about SaaS. There are a lot of more functionality. You can go through that in the assignment, or the resources which have been provided, which are associated with today's session. So you can go through all of those and take a look at the other features. And I want you guys to play around with node modules, install certain packages, check out the repository, see all of these things, you know check out different packages, go through their documentation which you find over here, see the releases, all of those things. So it will help you get familiar with NPM, because we'll be using it quite extensively when we are moving towards React, right? When we are in React, we'll be using it quite a lot. So yeah, if you guys have yeah, there is something known as mixins as well. So like I said, I'm just covering a very short part, because moving ahead we'll be mostly using some or the other CSS library. And those libraries internally might be using SASS, but we as a developer, we might not use it that much, or we might use it for functionalities which are specific to, say, nesting, help us write cleaner CSS. So for those kind of things we might use SCSS, but not so much for the other things. If you guys have any more doubts, you can ask me. Otherwise, we'll just end this session here, right? You can ask me more doubts in the comments. The conversion command. Which conversion command are you talking about? Okay. So the command for converting it from CSS to SCSS is that if we look at the documentation, let me show you the documentation for SASS itself. And if you take a look at the installation, you can install it globally. Then let's take a look at documentation, or rather learn SASS. So you can see that they have provided this over here. So if we had installed SASS globally, you would have not had to go inside, node modules and search for that. It just says that to watch the changes, you can specify the watch flag, name of the file that you want to watch, and the output that you want to convert it to. You give the name of the output file. So that is what we had done over here as well, that we were going inside node modules. Since SASS is only installed locally, so it's the CLI part is available within bin, okay, this thing. And we are going to that path, and we're just giving the name of the file. This is the input file, styles.scss, and we want the output file to be named styles.css. So that is what we have done over here, right? Suppose I want to call this as output.css. Okay, so I just modified this. I renamed it to output.css. Let's save this. If I close this and run npm run sass watch again, you can see that it has created a new output.css file, right? So that is how you can convert it from SCSS to CSS. Okay, why isn't the minor version of Flowdash showing on its Git repo? I don't know. But you can see for the other packages, we looked at SASS, right? So it is showing the major version which is there, and this is the latest one only. Maybe they have not updated the package properly for Lodash. Let's do a search. Perhaps it hasn't been made available on this repository. The documentation hasn't been updated, so that's why we are not seeing that version of Lodash. Okay, any more questions related to the topic? I think we'll end the stream over here, and for the other questions, we'll move on to Discord. You can ask me all of your doubts in the voice channel. Okay. I'll answer this question. Do you think it's a bad practice for such widely used package? Yeah, I think they should have provided whatever was the latest release for Lodash. It should have been available. So you can see over here that this version was available last on 2016. Not sure as to why they are not providing. So it's been a while since they have made updates, right? You can see that 2 years ago, 7 years ago, uh, a lot of activity isn't happening. So um, yeah, I'm not sure why they haven't. It's not a good practice actually. They should have updated their documentation to the latest uh, minor release and made that information available. Like what were the changes? But anyways, it isn't something that we can do anything about. All right, so how is npm updated? Npm is updated. Yeah, it's the same Prettier that we are using, and npm is updated by the person who has loaded this repository, right? That person is responsible for providing updates to the package, and once they're available, it's up to us to update to the latest, minor and major versions. Okay. And yeah, that's it. Let's end the stream, and I'll see you guys in Discord voice channel.